toward Shankara, but I have to be honest because I'm a philosopher and a scholar and a spiritual seeker. Now, third thing, as a monk, as a young monk and as a spiritual practitioner, it is the easiest thing in the world to talk big about non-dual Brahman and pure consciousness and I am that, and the hardest thing in the world to practice it. The hardest thing in the world to practice it. It's one thing to listen to some inspiring lectures and another thing to actually practice it on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. Good luck. Because I tried and failed miserably and fell flat on my face, time and again.
Did you also stand in front of a bus, coming bus?
I use that metaphor a lot, about a coming bus. Anyway, but the point is, most people when they talk about Advaita, Swami Shivananda of the Divine Lifestyle, I stayed there for a night this time, just a few weeks ago in Rishikesh, and I gave a talk there. They were very kind to me. That Shivananda, not this Shivananda of our tradition, Mahapurush Maharaj, but that Shivananda. He would talk about lip Vedantins. Most 99.99999% of so-called Advaitans are lip Advaitans. They can talk eloquently about it, but they don't really practice it. When push comes to shove, when it really counts, when it really matters, where's your Advaita then? It's far in the distance. And it's not the fault of Advaita. We are not adhikaris to practice Advaita Vedanta. Shankara insisted on that. If you just study it, please, the one thing that most people don't do when they talk about Shankara is read his commentaries. They do 100 other things, and they watch YouTube all day, but they don't read Shankara. Read Shankara's commentaries on the Prasthana Traya. And the most authoritative is his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. In his commentary on the very first sutra, 1.1.1, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, he says, you are only eligible to study and think about Advaita Vedanta when you are perfectly equipped with sadhana chatushtaya, the fourfold sadhana. What is the fourfold sadhana? Viveka, perfect discrimination between what's real and unreal, between what's permanent and impermanent. Vairagya, perfect dispassion, detachment from everything in the world, not having any worldly cravings, any worldly attachment. How can anyone in this room dare to say that they have this? Then Shat Sampat, the 6 treasures in spiritual life. I won't go through them all in detail, but Shama, Dhamma, perfect self-control, perfect sense control, perfect perseverance and endurance, and all these things. And then finally, intense mumukshutva, intense longing for liberation. Not being able to stand being in this body and being in this world. How many of these people who are talking eloquently and giving big lectures on Advaita can really say that they have this sadhana chatushtaya? Some of them do. Savarpanji is a very advanced spiritual aspirant, so he can say that. But how many of the people watching his lectures have the same kind of adhikaritva? That's the question.
Maharaj, I have one question. You always criticize...
Oh, sorry, but let me come back. But let me finish. Okay, so now, 3 factors converging. Number 1, I'm finding that the Vedantic scriptures are not actually supporting all the time Shankara's flood. They support Nirguna Brahman, they support Jnana Yoga, but they equally support the reality of the personal God. And you'll find that the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita nowhere say that this world of names and forms is a dream or an illusion. It's very hard to find the scriptures teaching Jagat Mithya. What you find instead is Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. All these names and forms. Brahma Ivedam Amritam Purastad, Brahma Paschat, Brahma. Brahman is above me, Brahman is below me, Brahman is to my left, Brahman is to my right. Exactly like Sri Ramakrishna's Vijnana experience. Okay, so that's one thing I'm finding. Number 2, I'm finding that Sri Ramakrishna's teachings don't always match Shankara's teachings, because Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy of Vijnana Vedanta is much broader, it's much vaster. It's a kind of superset of all the different traditional schools of Vedanta. It fully accepts Shankara, except for the exclusivism of Shankara. Shankara is saying that Brahman is only Nirguna, ultimately. It fully accepts Ramanuja's Vishtadvaita, except for the exclusivism of Ramanuja. And he says, Ramanuja, I love your Vishnu, but Brahman is not only Vishnu. It's equally Nirguna. And he does the same thing with Madhva and the same thing for all these other traditions, right? Okay. And so that's the second thing. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are just much vaster than just Shankara's philosophical framework. And thirdly, as a spiritual aspirant and as a monk, I found that my spiritual life became much truer, more authentic, and much richer, and much broader, and much more generous when I accepted this Vijnana Vedanta framework of Sri Ramakrishna. Because then Sri Ramakrishna gave this beautiful example. He says, there are these 2 friends who, by profession, were weavers. So they would carry around these balls of yarn with them. So one of these weaver friends visited her friend. And she sees this beautiful ball of yarn. that her friend owns, and she starts to covet it. So she thinks to herself, I want to steal this ball of yarn. How do I do it? How do I pull this off? So she waits for her friend to go away, quietly slips that ball of yarn under her armpit. The friend, though, noticed that the other friend stole the ball of yarn, but she didn't tell the other friend anything. But she said this. She was very smart. She said, "Come, my dear, let's dance together. I feel like dancing. Don't you feel like dancing?" And so she takes her by the hand, and this friend is freaking out because she got this ball of yarn. Okay, all right, let's dance. And so the other friend is joyfully dancing with both hands, with both arms raised. But the friend with the ball of yarn on one arm is dancing like this. So Sri Ramakrishna says, I don't want to be like that dancer. Dancing like this and, dance with both arms raised. What does that mean? It means, why should you fear this world? Why should you think that you can only experience the divine and experience truth with your eyes closed when you go within and you realize a non-dual self? Why can't you see God with eyes open? And why can't you commune with the divine in many different ways? He says, if I have a flute, instead of playing just one note on the flute, Soham, I am Brahman, I am pure consciousness, I want to play ragas and raginis on that same flute. Using all four of the yogas. Spiritual life becomes so much richer when you can practice bhakti and jnana and raja yoga and karma yoga. And where you don't see a conflict between them, but it becomes a beautiful harmony, a beautiful symphony with different instruments where you can play different melodies. And so my spiritual life, once I moved away into phase 3, so now we get to phase 3 finally. So agnostic spiritual seeker, phase 1. Phase 2, Shankaracharya Vedanta. Phase 3, Sri Ramakrishna's Vijnana Vedanta. And there's no looking back since then. And I'm not saying I'm a realized soul. What I'm saying is that my spiritual life has become much richer and much broader. And I can also adopt a more generous attitude toward other spiritual aspirants and seekers, because I'm not putting myself on a higher footing than other people. Long answer to that question. Yes. Ramana Maharshi's teachings. Yes, that's a good question.